Hey everybody, just got back from being down at the stream and I collected up my crayfish trap. We got 2 crayfish in it, and I got a couple of creek chubs and then this Rosyside Dace. And I just wanted to do a little video here showing you how I'm acclimating it to the tank. Normally I don't worry about doing this, I just put them in the tank. My water is close enough to the outside water, the stream water. I have a well, so my water is groundwater, and it's similar enough in composition that I can usually just put the fish in here without really acclimating them. The only real difference would be the organics. You know, obviously my tank here has really high nitrates and everything, especially when you compare it to the stream across the street. Out of curiosity, I have checked the water many times over the years. We have a golf course about a half a mile upstream, plus I live in a very rural area where there's lots of farms and fertilization going on, and I've always suspected that we'd probably have high levels of nitrates in the water, and every time I've checked there's always been zero, absolutely no nitrates whatsoever. So I assume that the plants absorb it as fast as it's produced, and if there's more nitrates being added to the water, we'll just get more algal growth and stuff like that. You won't actually see the accumulation of the nitrates in the water, you'll just see the effects of the higher nitrates in the water. So the fish have never been exposed to the kind of organics that they get exposed to when they get put in this tank, but that never seems to bother them. What I'm doing today, however, is acclimating this fish temperature-wise. It's late in the season. The stream water is probably in the 40s by now. The temperature today was actually only 41 degrees when I went down there. The air temperature was only 41 degrees at 11 o'clock in the morning, and we did have another light freeze overnight. So the temperatures are definitely coming down in a roundabout way all over, and the water this fish is in is really cold. So we're just kind of letting it warm up. It's probably going to warm up way faster than the recommended couple of degrees per hour. We're probably going to go from 40 degrees to, I don't know, we're going to call this tank maybe, excuse me, 73, 74 degrees, maybe 75 degrees. It's at room temperature. I don't have it heated, but, you know, it's not a chilly room or anything, so we're looking at least probably 75 degrees down here. And we're going to see if that fish doesn't, you know, go through some kind of stress or shock being warmed up that quickly. I don't think it will. Being cold water fish, a lot of people think cold water fish mean that they have to be in cold water, and it does not necessarily. Goldfish, carp, koi, they're all cold water fish, and they live just fine in summer ponds that are in the 90s. So cold water just means they can tolerate cold water. Some species do need to be in cold water, but that's not what a cold water fish means necessarily. And these dace are just fine in the warmer water, but how fast they can get to the warmer water is the question. And when it comes to these cold water fish, they can usually go through rapid changes in temperatures. When I used to keep sunfish in a 40-gallon tank, I would do water changes. I wouldn't bother turning the hot water on. I would do a 75% water change, and I would just run cold water back into the tank. And I would actually get the tank so chilly so quickly that I would start to see condensation building up on the outside of the glass. The tank would start sweating in the room. I would chill the tank down so quickly, and it never bothered the fish. I never saw them even act shocked or stunned. It never slowed them down. It never did anything. So these cold water fish can really go through some pretty rapid changes in temperatures, and I don't honestly believe that, you know, the shift that we're going to go through by this process is going to be anything that will bother it. Frankly, I probably could have just taken it out of the bucket and just poured it right into the tank and it would have been fine, but we're talking about a 30-degree shift in temperature, so I'm going to give it 15 minutes, you know, and that should be enough. So I also find it interesting to see how intense the red is on the side of that fish. It's in that sort of cloudy bag, and you can still see how broad the red line is and how bold the red line is. If you look at the other ones that are trying to huddle near it, they already see it and are trying to school with it. Look how faded and pale the red lines on them is. Is that a temperature thing? Is it high nitrates doing that? Is that one of the, you know, effects that you'll see? The overall degradation of health in the animals if they're exposed to high levels of nitrates? Is that maybe what we're seeing? Some loss of color? That's possible. It could be just the fact that they're kept in captivity and they're not under normal breeding circumstances or normal circumstances, in the same way that like dolphins will lose their pink coloration on their belly if they're kept in captivity. Possibly these dace will lose some of their bright coloring if they're not in their natural environment. As similar as this environment may be, it's definitely not a natural environment for them to be in, and that could be affecting their coloration. I don't know. So there you go. There's a little addition to the tank. We're going to let that finish getting warmed up, and I'm going to go ahead and put it in there. I need to add a little bit of the tank water there soon so that we've got plenty of oxygen still in the water for that little guy there. We're also going to be talking about this tank here pretty soon. It's kind of odd that I'm adding fish to it because we're going to be taking fish out of it in the very near future. But I really like these Rosyside Dace. The school was getting a little dwindled down, and so throwing one more of them in there, even if it's only temporary, seemed worth it to me. So again, stay tuned. Look forward to more video on this tank. It's going to be sort of wrapping up pretty soon, I think. Again, we'll talk about that. I'll shoot a video separate all about this tank. I've been thinking a lot about this tank over the last few days, and I think it's time for some changes. So make sure you're subscribed, and then that way you won't miss any of those changes or anything else I've got coming up. And don't forget, of course, this one here is my native tank. So thanks again for watching. Look forward to seeing you real soon in the next one.